Hi, everyone. This is John Daly. I'm here today for a special 4th of July episode of the Reagan Caucus podcast. My regular co host, Thomas D. Howes, had to bail out at the last minute due to a problem at the airport, but I am happy to take both hosting reins today. Because this is a very special day for our nation, we here at the Reagan Caucus podcast, we're trying to think of the most patriotic guest we could possibly have on. So naturally, the name that first popped into our heads was Lee Greenwood. But apparently, apparently, Mr. Greenwood, he was unavailable. As was the that long-haired guy in Florida who strips down to his shorts and holds up the American flag during hurricanes. We tried to get him. That did not work out. But ladies and gentlemen, we were able to get on our special guest today. I'm sure many of you already recognize her. She is a conservative columnist for the Washington Examiner and also the Magnolia Tribune. I'm talking about the one and only Kimberly Ross. Kimberly, welcome to the Reagan Caucus podcast.
Thank you for having me on, and I'm sorry the 10 other guests who canceled couldn't come on, but I'm happy to be on the show.
Excellent. It was two other guests, so we don't want. I'm not dissing you too badly here, and they are very popular, and it's hard to get. Their agents are hard to.
Right, of course, yes.
But no, it's great having you on, Kimberly. Even if you were a third choice, but um, as I said, this is a special day for our nation. On July 4th, 1776, our country declared its independence from British rule, and so a big theme of today's episode is going to be freedom. Um, Case in point, here's one example of freedom. Kimberly, people who follow you know that you demonstrate your freedoms as an American often by expressing your very bad pop culture takes on social media. Um, you really are taking your best advantage of the First Amendment in that arena. But you are, as we both know, a freedom-loving individual, and I've seen you take to task political movements toward more government dependence and government intervention in people's lives. Um, Speaking of that topic, about a week or so ago, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., our Secretary of Health and Human Services, I know you're a big fan of his, Kimberly.
Sure.
He said in a hearing that his vision is that every American is wearing an electronic health monitoring data device, like a Fitbit, for example, within the next 4 years, basically by the end of this Trump term. We've also seen in the past instances like former Mayor Michael Bloomberg trying to ban the sale of large sugary drinks in New York City. Kimberly, what do you think about this? Does America need health nannies in public office making these kinds of decisions for us?
Well, before I answer that question, I would just like you to see that I have blue pillows and a red shirt.
You did. Very
America.
patriotic. I
So,
wasn't joking. Your patriotism is not in question here, Kimberly.
truly. Um, no, I have such a big problem with what RFK is proposing, and even any Democrat, like you said, Michael Bloomberg, who would propose a similar thing. We don't need more government control. We don't need them telling us what we should be doing. I am fine, and this should happen. I'm fine with there being full information out there as far as like health choices or choices when it comes to food, like nutritional facts, like things like that. Americans should know what they're choosing, but I don't think they need to be encouraged to choose a specific thing. You can choose something that's bad for you. I mean, that's part of freedom. You have every right to choose something that I would not choose if you want to do so. Completely fine. But no, I do have a problem with RFK Jr.'s proposal of what he called a wearable, which when I first saw the headline, I was like, a wearable? Oh, I think he's talking about a Fitbit. I happen to love Fitbits. I have one right here. Had it for a few years. I've had my wearable, I should say, for a few years. I love it. It helps me count my steps, heart rate, sleeping, exercise, all that stuff. It is fantastic. And I think if someone is interested in helping their health journey and their fitness and everything, they should get one. But I don't think the government should even encourage all Americans to have a Fitbit. And kind of this broad idea that he has that every American should have one. Why? I mean, I don't understand why you are so concerned with every American having something that will essentially aid them on their fitness journey. It's not the government's job to do that. They have so much other stuff that they should be focusing on. It's not the government's job. They would do a terrible job of it anyway if they were actually tasked with this kind of thing. And it does creep into the nanny state sort of thing where we know what's best for you, we know what's best for your family. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. I want to be given the information I need to make decisions, whether you would agree with them or not, whether I would be like John Daly and choose the things he chooses, which he will tell you are the best choices ever.
Oh no, they're terrible. I make terrible choices all the time, Kimberly. I'm drinking. I think I've drank 7 diet sodas this morning so far before
Gosh.
just getting
Yeah,
prepped up for this. So no, I would not I would not tell people to do what I do. Actually, do not do what I do.
that's true. I mean, don't do what John Daly does. But I don't want the government to tell me we should be like John Daly or we should be like Kimberly Ross. No, they need to back off. And there's a sense of whoever is in office, if the Democrats have a Democrat president in office, Republicans have a Republican, the expansion of government control and power, if your opponent is in office, you're like, oh, this is terrible. We can't have this. This is pushing the envelope. This is going too far. But if your guy is in office, you're like, oh no, this is a great idea. This is how we get America back on track, which is part of the problem I have with the Make America Healthy Again thing. What does that mean? That means to me the government pushing your ideas of what healthy should be. Again, I don't want the government to tell me what I should do at all. I just want to have all the information available to me. Then I can make decisions for me and my family. So, no, I don't think the government at all should be saying we all need to have a Fitbit or wearable or anything. They're out there. Consumers can choose them if they want to. They can also not purchase them. So the idea that every American should have a wearable, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but that borders on the, oh, they're going to track everything we do. And then it's like, some people are like, it's the mark of the beast. I'm not in that camp, but I'm just like, no, we don't need to go there. And I actually I've seen this, I think. I'm sure you have too. I feel like a lot of people in the MAGA camp, most of them, I should say, not all of them, are not excited about his suggestion. I mean, I've seen that online. People are like, I voted for Trump. I might even like RFK Jr., but this suggestion is not something I want to hear from them. So, no, I am not for that. Even though I support Fitbits, you should go buy a Fitbit. Fitbits are great. But no, I shouldn't have to wear one. Neither should you. I mean, and also diet sodas aren't that great either. But I support your decision to drink them.
I appreciate that, Kimberly.
Well,
That does mean a lot to me. No, it's funny. You did point out that there has been some pushback. You're right on RFK Jr.'s idea. Although it's funny how far we've come because you mentioned how has become sort of a tribal thing. I remember back during the Obama years when Michelle Obama, I think she put into effect like healthier meals in public schools, which feels far less intrusive. We're talking about public schools,
yeah.
healthier meals for kids, than what we're talking about now. Then it just kind of, a lot of people sort of shrug it off. Like you said, I'm glad it's getting pushback, but it is sort of interesting how it's one thing can outrage people under when one party does it, and then
Yeah.
it's not such a big deal when the other party does it.
And it to me, I mean, it's an odd thing to focus on. Fitness is great, staying healthy is great, all that stuff is great, but like this is part of his agenda and like his vision for the next 4 years. It just seems it's impossible for it to happen, of course. There's going to be a massive amount of pushback on the left, and which is funny because the left kind of likes this stuff sometimes. But then on the right, there's pushback. But this is like it's kind of on the top of his list. I just feel like it's odd. It's impossible for it to be done. And what are we going to have? Are we going to have like subsidies for Fitbits? Like, are we going down that route? Like, people, are we paying for the Fitbits for other, people in America? Like, what is the vision here? It just seems odd to me. And of course, I'm not a big fan of RFK Jr. anyway, even though you will probably say I am. But I don't think he should be in this position. But again, when I saw that, I was like, this is the weirdest focus for him to have.
Yeah, I think that was unfair what I said earlier about you and RFK Jr. You're not exactly a fan. I think that certain parts of his agenda you are heavy on. You are in favor of, such as his anti-vaccine stances. Kimberly, I know you're a big fan.
Huge.
No, you're against the boosters. No, I'm just kidding. Everybody for I got to keep in mind. See, I've interviewed Kimberly for my own podcast before, and not everybody knows that I'm joking when I say things like that in the Reagan caucus land. So I have to. I give Kimberly a hard time. I should explain that whenever I represent her, I'm often misrepresenting her.
Yes.
So she's at least here to defend herself here on this platform, and that's because we live in the greatest country on earth,
Yeah,
America. So
yeah, we do.
another question, just more broadly about this theme of freedom. We are about 5.5 months into President Trump's second term, and a lot has gone on just in general, in this relatively short amount of time. And
Yes.
I think, I mean, just we dropped bombs on Iran just was the last week. So yeah, it's a lot is going on. We're sort of all over the board. And I think because of that, maybe certain moves by this administration aren't getting the attention they deserve. They're kind of getting lost in the shuffle. And some of those moves include what appears to me to be sort of at least an attempted rollback for certain freedoms. One example is the effective nationalization of U.S. steel. U.S. steel, it's funny, when I was reading these headlines before, I thought they were explaining that Trump was nationalizing the entire U.S. steel industry. U.S. Steel is actually the name of a company, a very large American steel making company. So it's not the whole sector, but this was part of a national security agreement in which the president okayed a buyout of the company by Nippon Steel, a Japan-based company. In that agreement, Nippon gave the U.S. government, I keep saying this quote, a golden share of the
Yeah.
company, which, believe it or not, the more that people were looking at these contracts, actually gives Trump himself decisive control over the company's U.S. operations, including
Right.
personal veto power. Kimberly, this feels kind of crazy to me, and it sort of sparks, and I know it's a little different. It sort of sparks some memories of Hugo Chavez, the former president of Venezuela. He got involved in the 2020 election. Apparently, his ghost did, and now he's coming back to haunt us again.
Right.
Yeah, it does feel like the story, like I said, is not getting that much attention. What are your thoughts on this, Kimberly?
Yeah, it will not shock you to learn that I am not an expert on this topic.
U.S.
Um,
Steel, Kimberly.
US
I thought
Steel, yes. I mean, I write about that all the time. And no, yeah, I noticed that this has not gotten a lot of press either, and I'm not quite sure what that is. But my first reaction when I was reading about this and everything was, why are we giving the President of the United States, like you said, effectively control over this golden share in this company and nationalizing it? I don't think Republicans would feel as enthusiastic if a Democrat did the same thing and was in control of a company and had that sort of veto power and that decisive, I mean, decision making over all this stuff. Um, it just makes me think of Republicans aren't that great. And I mean, when I say all these things, I'm not saying Democrats are great. And I hope people who are not used to, never heard of me before, whatever, I am very much not a fan of the Democrats. And I criticize Republicans because I am on the right side of the aisle. And if anything, I want my side to improve because I'm not interested in going to the other side because they don't reflect my values and opinions and principles. That's why when people are like, oh, you criticize the right, because I know the left is not going to improve the way I want it to, simply because
You care more about the right.
I do actually because they most closely reflect my values and opinions and beliefs and everything. But as far as this issue is concerned, Republicans, if a Democrat were in office, they would not appreciate this sort of nationalization of a company, U.S. Steel, and the sort of power that you're giving a president who should not be focused on the decisions with an industrial U.S. company. They should be focused on running the country. So I just see it as, I mean, hypocritical, concerning, given what we want in terms of corporate freedom in our country. We don't want any company to be beholden to the president as in terms of decision making. We want free markets. We want those kind of decisions to be left to people who run those industries and are concerned about the markets as far as that's concerned. So I don't really think this is a good thing. I don't understand why there's not enough, I mean, not more press on it. And again, the long-term thinking, would we want Biden or whomever is the next Democratic president in office to have similar control over a company? I would say that we don't. Um, so I'm not sure why this has happened in general. And I guess mainly because he wanted to oversee the sale of this company or something. But he's not a businessman right now. He's the president of the United States, and that should be his sole focus. And if we don't want this to happen when the other party is in power, we shouldn't support it when our party is in power.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Another development that has troubled me, and this isn't always coming from the Trump administration, but the lawsuits that Trump has filed against individuals and organizations for basically saying and presenting things that he doesn't like. We've seen this with the Des Moines Register poll and Ann
Yeah.
Selzer. We've seen it with news media organizations like CBS News. Trump didn't like how 60 Minutes presented an interview with Kamala Harris, and now CBS might actually settle with this on this ridiculous lawsuit because it's causing problems with this merger between Paramount and Skydance Media. Um, Again, I know this isn't. I don't think it's technically coming from the White House. It's coming from Trump. But how concerned are you with this? It seems like there is sort of a chilling effect that's
Yeah.
being attempted at least. I know the courts. I think we can rely on to knock down some of it, but it is some companies that find themselves and individuals that find themselves on the receiving end of this might decide it's much easier just to surrender than actually stand up to this.
Yeah. It was in his first term. I forget what year it was, but I mean, I'm sure you remember this too, when Trump said that the press is the enemy of the people. And he, in the midst of a, geopolitical concerns, which are much more concerning to me than a paper that maybe I don't love so much, having an opinion that I don't support. Um, I didn't like when he said that. And I still don't like that he said that then. The press is not the enemy of the people. And as this is a freedom episode, we are not a perfect country, but we live in the greatest country on earth. And the freedoms we enjoy in terms of press or religion or speech, things like this, you do not have to like what a press source is saying or a news organization or a pollster has decided or anything. You don't have to like that. But the fact that we allow it to exist says so much about the greatness of our country, because you don't have to like any of these things, but you do have to support their existence, because that in turn supports what I say that people don't like and what you say that people don't like, which is a lot of things that you say actually people don't like. Um, but saying the press is the enemy of the people is not correct. First of all, they're not the enemy of the people, and it puts this kind of, we should be against differing opinions because they exist, instead of just agreeing to disagree or refuting them with substance. I mean, that should be the focus. The focus shouldn't be stopping or silencing these voices. The focus should be, oh, if you don't like these voices, you can counter them by saying what you want to say. So that enemy of the people line it's always stuck in my head. And Trump, as you well know, and people, anyone who's listening to this knows, he does not like when people say anything bad about him. And he cannot stand that. But he is the president of the United States. It's going to happen. And in terms of news organizations or news channels or pollsters saying things or deciding things he doesn't like, too bad. It's going to happen. That is freedom of the press. There are, considerations in terms of like libel and defamation and everything, but I don't think that's what we're talking about here. When they say something or print something he doesn't like, there should be no excuse from even his most ardent supporters in terms of him targeting them for merely existing. And in terms of the pollsters, I remember close to the November election, and I'm sure you saw this too, from what we saw across most of the polls, it wasn't like they were neck and neck, Harris and Trump, but they were pretty close, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 percentage points away from each other. And so what voters saw, whether you are on Harris or Trump's side. What voters saw was, oh, it looks like it's going to be a close election. But that, in terms of polling, that never means it's going to be a close election.
Right.
We're getting like a snapshot of what we think might be happening, and pollsters, as we know, take a small sample size and then go from there and then take their model further. But it doesn't mean that that is the end all be all of what is going to happen. And so when
Right.
Trump saw this, I forget her name or anything, but when,
And Selzer.
yes, when the poll came out and it was wildly different from what reality turned out to be, so what? That's polling. You
See,
don't have you don't have to like it. And by the way, you won. Trump, you won.
right.
Why would you care? I mean, I saw these polls and I thought it would actually be closer than what it was, but my conclusion after Trump won was, okay, it wasn't as close as we thought. So what?
Yeah, I mean the whole argument, and I think a lot of these lawsuits haven't made any sense. But
Yeah.
the poll one you bring up is to me even crazier than some of these other ones because first of all, this was a state poll. This was
Right.
this wasn't a national poll. This was the state of Iowa. So, but the idea was that the poll, at least the claim or the suggestion is that the poll was purposely wrong and that it was put out there to affect the election. And I'm like, I can't imagine there's a single person
No.
in this country who, was going to go out and vote, and then somehow they heard that this state Iowa poll showed that Harris had this big lead, and like, you know
I'm
what, I'm
gonna
either going
change
to
my
change
vote.
my thing or not go out. None of it made any sense, right?
And the people, if there was anyone affected by that poll, it was not enough to push the election or the state results in the other direction. Like I don't know what his argument would be. The people who would be affected by that is such a minuscule number that it shouldn't even be of concern. Like you said, I mean, the courts, if it gets further along the legal process, the courts hopefully will knock this stuff down, because it shouldn't even happen in the first place. But he just has such a short fuse, and he cannot handle when people disagree with him, or if they go against him in terms of polling or press or something. And again, like you said, it's a state poll, and he won the election. So
Right.
what is the problem? Like, I don't
I
know.
know.
If I
And
won
I
an
mean,
election, I wouldn't go after these people because you didn't like me, and you said that the voters in the state would actually go for my opponent, and they didn't. Who cares? I don't understand.
right.
Yeah,
And I mean, trust me, you and I are both sympathetic to people on the right who face a biased media, a biased
right.
legacy media. It's a real thing. So I live in this northern Colorado town called Greeley, Kimberly, and even here we have this newspaper in town, the Greeley Tribune, and I have appeared in it. Sometimes I've been interviewed for things. Sometimes I've submitted columns. They misquote me every single time I'm in there. I know it's not well, I don't know. I don't think it's on purpose. When I've written a few op-eds, which I think are very thoughtful, they'll give it their own headline that it basically makes me look like a jerk.
And then if
Like
people don't read it, then they don't know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
right, exactly. And I'm not gonna sue anybody over it. It's not. It's it's. I get it. It's annoying, but yeah, it's. If you're really Tribune, if you're listening though, come on, you got to stop it. It's been like how many years now? But anyway, um, but that'll get a good laugh out of the local crowd because everybody knows how the Greeley Tribune operates around here. But anyway, some of that's just joking. But yeah, no, it's I'm a big believer in the First Amendment, big believer in freedom of press, and like I said at the top, I think I worry this does have a chilling effect to it, where people could be afraid if they think it's going to come back to hit them somehow with the presidential power that Trump has
Right.
to report how they otherwise would report.
Yeah, I'm all for encouraging news sites and news sources and journalists and writers and op-ed and pundits and all those people to stick with the facts. And of course, we know opinion columns and opinion writing is different from straight news reporting, but we should encourage everyone to stick to facts. And if they're not, call them out on it. At the same time, I support the freedom of the press because that is a bedrock of our country. And there's so many other places in the world that don't have that sort of privilege. And I think we really take it for granted. And if we do, we cannot take it for granted enough to where we are fine with the president targeting people because he doesn't like what they're saying. So I think we can do all these things at the same time. And I think we should be doing all these things at the same time. They should have the freedom of the press. We should also hold people accountable because, like you said, we know people on the left and the right and in the middle. It's so easy to push a narrative that is not based in facts, and we should be pushing for that. But we should also be protecting freedom of speech. So, I mean, you and I have just such great opinions that people should be listening to us and reading us and holding our opinions as their own. But I mean, we can't
Exactly.
make people do that because this is America and I'm fine with freedom. So,
That is it, me too. Me too. Last freedom topic I would like
yeah.
to talk to you about is free trade. Another this is a freedom that has, in my view, been on the ropes. I would say it's gone back a while now because these trade wars, these smaller early ones was we saw it during Trump, we saw it maintained by Biden, I think even added to a little bit. But in the past few months, there it's it's been a wild ride on the tariff front.
Mm.
I think there are all kinds of economic problems with this, including with this on again, off again, application of tariffs on imported goods. But just on principle and the role of government, this feels like ridiculous executive overreach, and the courts, thankfully, seem to agree. But I think similar to how President Biden kept trying to find ways, creative ways to try and pay off young people's student debt with taxpayer money, even after the courts shot him down. Do you think do you think the Trump administration will continue to try and force this tariff doctrine for the next 3.5 years, even as the courts stand up to them?
I'm sure they will be pushing it, maybe not all the way, but a little bit at least, because we know Trump said tariffs. He likes the word. He likes tariffs. He
Yes.
likes the word. Like he loves tariffs. I'm not quite sure what his substantive reasoning is behind that, but he just loves tariffs, and he has a confused view of tariffs and how they affect the American consumer. And people on his side of the aisle have said as much to him and argued as much that it will eventually be passed down to the consumer. And I know Nike just recently was saying that they will have to increase their prices because of tariffs, and it will be passed down to the consumer. Now, you may not be interested in buying Nike shoes, but the flow of how the tax ends up and is on our shoulders and not so much the corporate shoulders says a lot about how tariffs work in the real world. And I don't know if Trump just doesn't care about that or if he thinks somehow it's still good for the American economy, bringing in the revenue. But it will be passed down to consumers. It's already been happening. Prices are increasing in certain areas. I've even noticed that certain products I buy, I don't know, I don't know for sure if it's tariff related, but I'll just talk about it here. Something you probably don't use is facial serum. I don't know if you have ever used
All the
that.
time. All
All
the
the time.
time. Yes. No,
But
no, I'm not even sure what that is actually. But go ahead.
it's a product that I don't know if it actually helps, but we use it anyway because women do that. But last year it was the serum I buy was $4.99. It went up to $9 at the end of last year, and I just bought it last week and it was $18. Now I don't
Wow.
know exactly the trail that led to that price increase, but I have to think at least some of it is due to the tariffs on these corporations being passed down to consumers. Again, no one don't quote me and be like, oh, Kim said it's this and it's totally, I don't know for sure. But I see it reflected in things like that and other items I buy at the grocery store. And like I said, Nike said that they're going to raise prices. Other companies have said they're going to raise prices because of tariffs. So it is passed down to the consumer. If Trump doesn't care about that, then I guess he can just rake in the tariff revenue and be fine with that and say, look, it's helping our country while it's hurting American citizens. So will he ever admit that? I don't know. I don't really think he cares as long as he likes something. If he seems to think there is a positive result from it, even if it's like a partially positive result and there's a negative result on the other side, I think he's okay with it. So I can see him pushing this throughout the rest of his term because he likes what he likes and he goes with that, whether or not it's good for the country. And I think we saw that in his first term, even though I agree with some of the things he did in his first term. I think Trump 2.0, you would probably agree with me, is more extreme than the
Yeah.
first term,
Well,
and
Kimberly, they've
maybe
declared
worse than
war. They've declared war on your face. I mean, that is extreme. This is
the
facial serum. I mean, this is a big deal,
I mean,
and
I'm sure
I
your
would take
wife
this
uses some
personally.
facial I'm sure your wife uses facial serum. You should ask her if
Probably.
the costs have raised or anything. Um, but yeah, I think this second term, I'm sure you would agree, it's it's worse than the first and it's more extreme than we thought. I mean, like you said, it's only 5.5 months in or something, and there's been
Yes.
so much that's happened. I feel like we've lived like 2 years of this term so far. I mean, there's so much stuff. So yeah, I think he'll just keep pushing what he likes. People will tell him the negative side effects and he won't care. So,
The hopeful news, we've had a few legal experts on who've talked about this topic on this podcast, and it really does it does look like the courts are gonna be able to successfully constrain him on a lot of this stuff. I mean, it would be so much nicer if Congress just did it. I mean, they could vote tomorrow, take back this, emergency power, take back this tariff power as their
yeah.
own, which has been very frustrating because the left's not trying it either. I get why the right's not trying the Republican Party because they're afraid of upsetting Trump. I don't
Yeah.
think the Democrats are afraid of upsetting Trump, but they're not really organizing either. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean I don't have I think he will keep trying to do these things that he's been doing and get more creative with it. But yeah, I hope that the judiciary stands in his way on it.
And I was going to ask you about a Congress and everything. I mean, I know I'm not supposed to ask you questions or anything
Oh,
because
ask. Go ahead. Go ahead. I may not know the answer, but I appreciate questions.
I'm sure you feel like this too. Not like I mean, I think we're pretty much on the same thing most of the time. But I've been disappointed with Mike Johnson, Speaker Mike Johnson, in his role as Speaker of the House because he just seemed so beholden to Trump and what Trump wants and not pushing the party to do things like take back tariff control over tariffs and authority over tariff power and everything. He doesn't seem interested in that. He doesn't seem interested in any way almost pushing back against Trump's policies and ideas for his term. And to me, that doesn't seem like for sure what the role of the speaker should be in
No,
terms of the position in the House of Representatives and also in the leadership of the party. And I mean, I shouldn't be disappointed because I shouldn't be surprised about things like this, but I just don't understand why people in positions that should be, of course, he has his party biases, but should be more neutral in terms of leading the party and doing what's right in terms of congressional authority, not doing it just because the guy you like is in power and also the guy you like is more bully than anything else. I'm sure you feel the same way about Mike Johnson, but I mean, I've seen people talk about him. He's a disappointment in terms of his role in the House.
no, I totally agree. I mean, it really is sort of a blow to the separation of powers
Yeah,
because this is not the job of the Republican Congress or the Democratic Congress. It's not to just do whatever if their president, someone from their party is in power, just to do whatever they want. I mean,
right.
it's not. I mean, this is our founders came up with this system for a reason, and it's not just to fall in line, but the political reality is that so many in Congress and the Republican Party, there are some notable exceptions, but for the most part, a lot of these people are afraid of losing their jobs. They're afraid if they get on Donald Trump's bad side, they're going to get primaried out of office in the next election. There have been many examples that to prove this is a real threat. This is a real thing. So that's unfortunately, I think their own political futures are what they're
Right.
considering, and I think Johnson's no different.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in Congress, left and right, are more interested in pushing their career down the road and having some sort of consulting or advising job in the future, whether that's on MSNBC or Fox News or some sort of thing. But they want to establish themselves in terms of political power, not necessarily in elected office, but some sort of position of authority that people look to in the future, on their side of the aisle. So I mean, it's disappointing, but we're just disappointed all the time by
Right.
Congress
No
and the
one's ever. Every
president.
now and then we'll get like a real win. Kimberly,
Right.
will get you and I will get some political win out there, and it'll
Yeah.
be very exciting. And then like a half a day later, something else crazy happens, and it
Right.
just kind of deflates it.
Right.
And it's not a good situation right now.
No, like I was in full support of Trump making the decision to support Israel
Yes.
with military strikes on Iran. And I said that on Twitter, and people are like, I'm so glad you support the president in this. And my whole thing is I'm going to call balls and strikes. You're going to like some of the things I support. You're not going to like when I say other things. And
Yeah,
I don't feel at all that I need to sort of be on a team. I'm going to
no.
say what I think. I'm going to say this is good and this is bad, and you're going to hate it sometimes and you're going to love it at other times. And in the same week, I've liked what he's done and I haven't liked what he's done. But I don't see any other way to go about assessing a president,
Right.
because otherwise it's just tribalism. And then what is that? You're just being a cheerleader, and that takes no effort at all.
Yeah, it's disheartening to me because I feel like the concept of principles. I mean, it's taken a blow as time goes on.
Yes.
But it's what gets me is people are so confused by it about having these consistent principles. That's
Yeah.
I do. I'm pretty closely aligned with Bernard Goldberg. I write for his site, other things. He's been very like you, very supportive of what Trump did on Iran, and it's wild just because I think I monitor his social media more than he monitors his social media, and just people are like, what you're doing a 180 here. You're now
Yeah.
you're pro Trump. You've been against. I'm like, no, it's principles. It's principles.
Yeah.
You don't follow people. You follow principles, or you should be following principles because
Yeah.
it's always the better alternative of the two because people and especially politicians are always going to find a way to let you down
And Bernard Goldberg, like you brought him up, he has been raked over the coals for years and years
all the time.
in terms of Trump. And like you said, people say, "Oh, he's doing a 180." No, you've just not been paying attention. And same thing if people say that to you or say that to me. Um, no, you've not been paying attention, because we have fixed principles about what we think about conservatism and how the country should be run. And that doesn't change whomever's in office. So if you don't like it, maybe you're not paying attention. It's not my fault you're not observant. And don't be mad at Bernard Goldberg or John Daly or Kimberly Ross, because we're staying firm and standing still where we've always been. You keep going crazy like this, we're where we've always been. It's so hard to be in this position, John.
It is, and it's especially when you get accused of being the one who changed, and
Yeah.
it's wild because I always think about I think it's a Pearl Jam song. I think this is Eddie Vedder I'm quoting here, but the line "I changed by not changing at all," and I think that's the
That's perfect.
perception out there.
Yeah.
I've somehow changed, even though you go back 10, 15 years, look at what I've written, everything else exactly same positions on nearly everything, and
Yeah.
but somehow
Yeah.
I've been the one who did something strange. You've changed, Kimberly. Bernie's changed. It's pretty wild.
I mean, since 2015, I have not, since Trump came down the escalator, is what I'm talking about. I haven't changed my position on anything. I've only reacted to what Trump has done or what the Democrats have done. And people are so confused by this. And it's just, I think, because the tribalism, and not like there hasn't been tribalism in decades past in terms of political parties and everything, but really the internet, I'm sure you would agree with this, the internet has really magnified the interest in sticking close to your team and never failing them or never being a traitor and everything. But it doesn't, it makes no sense in the real world or even online to just, fly with the breeze and whatever way the wind blows and everything. It doesn't, because pretty soon there's going to be a Democrat in power, and you had better be fixed on your principles, or else you're just going to oppose them because they're a Democrat and they're on the other team, not because you have substantive reasons for doing so. And that doesn't help the Republicans, doesn't help the conservatives. So yeah, it's disappointing to see that, but like we said, we're disappointed constantly.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of people just kind of go with the flow, and when that happens, the price of facial serum just shoots through
It
the roof.
shoots straight up,
Shoots.
shoots up.
And this is what happens. I mean,
It,
today it's facial serum. Who knows what it'll be tomorrow?
yes,
So
real
it's
world consequences. Facial serum is going up.
exactly, exactly. Well, I do want to end things on a more positive note on this episode. I appreciate you coming on, Kimberly. I know Thomas was looking forward to this, so I feel bad for him not being on this episode. But I wanted to ask you, just because it is the 4th of July, just kind of a fun question. What would you say is your favorite 4th of July movie?
Well, like we said before we started recording, a lot of people will say Independence Day, which is a fine movie. I mean, what was it, 1996? I think it came out or something. I mean,
Could
it was
be.
a really fun, big blockbustery movie and everything. I really enjoy The Patriot with Mel Gibson
Hmm.
because it's, Revolutionary War and I mean, that's our founding and all that stuff. I also, this may not seem like a Fourth of July movie, but I really enjoy Air Force One with Harrison Ford. And it's not, again, it's not a Fourth of July movie, but he, as the president, completely unbelievable sort of situation. He, as a president, is fighting to take over Air Force One from these, I think they're Russian, right? Gary Oldman's the Russian guy.
Oh,
Never, Russian, yeah.
spoiler
I mean,
alert! Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen the movie.
But I just love the America feel of it and the guy who's in charge winning the day and fighting back against the bad guys. It just feels very American. And again, it's not a Fourth of July movie, but you should watch it on the Fourth of July. It's fun. It makes you want to cheer at the end. And like there was one part, I'm sure you know this part when he says, "Get off my plane" and everything, and he pushes the bad guy off, and you're just
Spoiler.
like, yes, America. I mean, you want to cheer the president, the guy in charge is taking back the plane and winning the day back from terrorists. I love it. I don't know.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
don't think there's
so
anything.
unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that movie, but when I was Googling 4th of July movies, that actually came up. So there must be some 4th of July element to it, and I think there really is nothing more American
Yeah.
than Harrison Ford as the president giving knuckle sandwiches to Russian terrorists. I think that's pretty American. But I
Know
will
that
say,
president, no president would be in that position giving a terrorist like physical contact, like fighting them. Like it doesn't happen because of security reasons. And also, I don't see any of the people who have run for office doing that sort of physical exertion.
no, we actually there's been some toying around of inviting terrorists to Camp David to kind of hang out and discuss it. A little bit different. So yeah, not the same as the movie actually. So,
Right.
but we brought up 3 movies now. 4th of July. All those answers are wrong,
Oh,
Kimberly, because the greatest 4th of July movie
I
ever.
knew what you're gonna say.
What?
No, well, go.
Jaws.
Oh,
Jaws.
John.
Jaws. Yes, greatest 4th of July. Just turned 50 years old. Um,
It takes place
Fantastic.
on July 4th, doesn't it? Like the
Yeah, yeah, that's a big part of that's a big part of it because the mayor does not want to shut down the beaches because of the 4th of July crowds that are coming over, and then they get chomped on. Sorry, that was a spoiler too. I didn't mean to do that. That there is that people get chewed up in that movie
that is
by
not
a shark,
a 4th of July movie. I was not thinking you're gonna say Jaws. That is kind of like saying Die Hard is a Christmas movie because it
which it
takes
is, which it
it's
is.
not, but I mean, you're John
Okay,
Daly, you write these thriller novels. I probably shouldn't disagree with you when it comes to dramatic things like this, but
that's exactly right. Because you just into Die Hard real quick. His wife's name was Holly. Christmas.
I mean, can I say something I've never said before? I've
Yes.
never I've never actually seen Die Hard, but I talk about it
Okay.
like I have.
This is unacceptable. I started this episode, Kimberly, by touting how patriotic you are and how pro-America you are.
Huh?
And I mean, there is very few things more anti-American than never
And
having seen Die Hard.
but I talk about it on Twitter like I've seen it. I constantly say around Christmas that it's not a Christmas movie, only because that is fun to talk about because people get all worked up. But I've never actually seen it. Never.
So you're just getting people stirred up for nothing,
That's the
Kimberly.
whole point of Twitter. Yeah.
Well, I hope you're getting good commission from Elon and his little click royalty engagement bait because I mean that gets people fired up.
It
People lose
does.
their cool. and you don't even know, you've never even seen the movie. That's just amazing to me.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, I should maybe I should I will watch it before Christmas maybe. So
I'm glad. This makes me glad your facial serum is more expensive than it used to be because I'm having a whole change.
I
Maybe turtles
deserve
aren't so
that.
bad.
But I don't think Jaws is a. I've only seen Jaws maybe I think twice. I've never thought it's a Fourth of July movie. It's just a summer movie, you know.
Well, it is a summer movie. It's a great. I check it out every summer with my kids. Even saw it during COVID. We saw it at the drive-in movie theater.
It's disturbing
That was fantastic.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. If you've seen it, if you've only seen it twice, come on, Kimberly, you gotta. Have you seen the sequel, Jaws 2?
No.
Oh, it's
Isn't
good.
it
It's
the same
not as
thing?
good as the
It's just
first.
like a shark and then like there and then like it's the same thing. I mean, how could it be any different or better? I don't see that
Well,
happening.
it's not better than the original, that's for sure. But it's one of the better sequels, and
Uh-huh.
it's surprisingly good. It's a different shark. It's not. I've heard when people talk about Jaws 2 and they talk about, well, how did Jaws come back alive after the first movie? And I'm like,
Different
oh
shark.
man, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like we're really staying on topic really well here in this
Yeah.
in this episode.
Huh?
No, but no, this is great, Kimberly. I want to go ahead and wrap things up. I want to thank you for coming on to the Reagan Caucus podcast. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Since you know your stuff and you're always a good sport, you put up with all my little goofiness, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for having me. First time on the Reagan Caucus podcast, like your fourth time interviewing me. So I apologize for that.
I almost once, when I was doing this podcast, almost said Reagan Battalion instead of Reagan Caucus, and that opens a
Oh,
whole can of worms. That's a whole
yeah.
different thing. People can Google that if they want to, but that's all right. But everyone, I want first of all, again, Kimberly, thank you. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in today. If you watch today's episode on YouTube, as always, make sure you like the video, subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or some other audio platform, please like and subscribe as well. And we will see you all next time on the Reagan Caucus podcast. Thanks, Kimberly.
Thank you for having me.